We are back. Luke and Phil here from Next Advisory, another episode of the What's Next podcast. Today, we are talking about something that is very, very important for business owners to consider, and that is business planning.
Very important topic, Luke, and it's good to be back in front of the mic on this wonderful Auckland afternoon.
Let's use ourselves as an example of business planning and what we do to put some structure around how we're going to plan out our future and the success of the things that we want to achieve in business. Talk me through.
So what did we do? We went up to Fiji before we even started, didn't we? Because we backed ourselves.
Yep.
And we thought it would be a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
And it was. And we sat up there, drank some Fiji Gold, if I recall.
I had a couple, yep.
Couple of dozen.
Yeah, the banana rum as well was a good find.
Oh, that's right. We have to go back.
So the whole point was to get out of our New Zealand environment and get out of
the usual routine of life and work, get into somewhere different so that the the freedom of creativity could flow.
Yeah.
And we could really do some blue sky thinking about what is our grand plan, about what our business could look like in 5 or 10 years' time.
Yeah.
And throw some pretty wacky stuff out there that really accountants aren't doing.
Yep.
And that's really around the social media space. And then peg it back to some actionable steps.
So that was for us personally when we were planning out the very start of Next Advisory and how we were gonna make ourselves known in the market, right, and get some awareness. Because for those listening in the accounting space, what is very, very common is that you would go and buy a book of clients, and you will go and pay for a book of clients, and then you will look after them, and then you will generate your revenue, and you'll repay your debt on those clients. Phil and I, we were determined to build Next Advisory from absolute scratch and not go and buy a book of clients. So,
big fat donut.
Yeah. So we knew that we had to do things differently, and so we needed to sit down and figure out, okay, then how the hell are we going to do it? And that was our business planning process in year one. And what was really cool was that 12 months on when we went and sat back down and looked at some of the things that we'd spoken about, just how much we'd achieved and how accurate it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, so year 2 or the end of year 1 was Queenstown.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Sound like we're bloody
traveling
around the world.
But that was a pretty cool trip.
Cold.
And yeah, it was quite, what's the word? It was quite cool.
Yeah.
To be able to sit back and look at what we'd written down 12 months earlier and kind of see the journey that had unfolded and gone, wow, actually we've ticked some stuff off. It was, quite fulfilling.
Fulfilling, that's a great word. I knew you were looking for something.
And then we sat there, and I recall it was probably at a pub over probably beer number 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And that's when the ideas really started flowing, and we came up with the plan for year 2.
Yep.
Which is just recently finished. And then we did our trip up to the Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast. We wanted to go somewhere hot, didn't we, to get a bit of sun back on the body. So we went during a colder time in New Zealand, well, when it was sort of just coming out of winter, and we're like, let's go and hide away somewhere where we can really feel some warmth.
And I guess the point about it is not just doing something different, but getting out of your comfort zone with that business planning process of being able to, as I said before, let the creative mind engage and then really get your mind and your body and your business outside of what is the ordinary to go what is actually possible.
Yeah. And you've got to be in an environment where you can feel comfortable expressing those things that you can potentially see. Like I'll say to Phil, I think we could have the best business conference, the best small business conference in the country. And Phil will look at me and go, oh shit, okay, well how are we going to make that happen? He won't look at me and go, that's ridiculous. Like why are you coming up with that? And that's, I think, a very key part of it as well, is that you've got to get in a room and go, well, what's going on in your head? Like, what can you see? And then if we decide that we want to make those things a reality, then you figure out from there, how do you do it?
And that's part of that big picture planning piece of where no idea is a dumb idea, and you have a real brainstorming session to go, well, what could life look like in 5 or 10 years' time from a sales point of view? How much do you want to be turning over? How many employees do you want to have? If you're based in Auckland at the moment, do you want to expand down to Wellington and Christchurch?
Yep.
Or if you already got New Zealand covered, does Australia or even Asia and beyond
India
appear on the horizon? India even.
Yeah,
Why
anywhere.
not? Go for a curry.
Big market. We did have a curry when we were down in Queenstown, didn't it? It was one of the best meals we had.
Oh, that
remember?
curry place, that was bloody good.
Yeah.
Jeez, that was good value for money that night.
Yeah.
And then go, well, if that's what the business is going to look like in 5 years' time, and we're going to pump out X in sales, and we'll have so many employees that are on the same page as us, all contributing, and we'll spit out a profit of Y. We'll generate good cash flow. Life's going to be good. But in order to achieve that, there's going to be some bite-sized chunks that we're going to need to take action on.
Yeah.
And that's where we see the rubber meets the road.
Bingo. And I think something that you do very well, and I've learned from you
here we go
over this time, this could be a number of things, but very, very good at wrapping a time frame around something. Because I remember you saying to me very early on, like, if you don't put a time frame on something, then how do you know it's going to get done? And I was sort of like, well, no, because you just have to do it. Like, if you tell someone to do something, they'll do it. But it's just not how the world works, right?
No.
And you're very good at sort of subtly saying to people, okay, when can we expect this to be done with? And you do it with me. You do it with like I watch you do it with yourself, or you tell me like, okay, this will be done by this date, and it's so effective. And I think one thing that we've noticed through our business planning process is that we've achieved like way more than what we've actually planned to achieve over 12 months, because we're both very action driven, and we like taking action. It's good fun for us. Unless it's something we really don't want to do, then we might sort of procrastinate on it or put it to the back.
The business planning process reminds me of that saying, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Love that. Yeah. Yep.
You know, and I think we have high expectations of ourselves individually, and then we bring that together. It works quite well in the business sense, and we're naturally quite driven.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy for us to look at our business and go, okay, we can do business as usual. But in order to achieve this big lofty goal that's way up here, we need to execute and action these things that are down here, and commit to it. And at first it's uncomfortable. So for me, one of the big things early on for us was social media. And I still remember our first Facebook Go Live.
Yeah.
I think we're in Parnell.
Like, come on, mate, we're going live.
Yeah. And there was no script, there was no preparation, there was no planning. And for me, that pretty much goes against everything that I'm used to.
Yeah.
But I just bit the bullet and ran with it.
I mean, it was fun.
And had a ton of fun. We got it done, and it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. And roll forward 2 and a bit years later, and it's now going, right, let's get the camera up.
Yeah, Phil's saying to me, hey, we haven't done a Go Live for a while. I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry, mate.
Let's get into it. Our fans are waiting.
Yeah. And touching back on those action items, we were talking about this earlier, but sometimes it is trying to explain to people these action items are outside of what you would ordinarily do in the course of your business. So if you want to achieve X over there, then these things need to happen on top of what you're currently doing, right?
Yeah, one thing that's become really clear to us is there's the business as usual or ordinary course of business stuff that's got to happen.
Yep.
And normally when you're wanting to develop a strategy and have the plan that sits in behind that you're going to need to work on, you're going to have to do something different. And those little bite-sized chunks aren't going to be business as usual tasks, because if you wanted to get to this great lofty goal, I don't believe business as usual is going to take you there. You're going to need to do something different, which is all about getting outside of that comfort zone. And it's all about understanding how you use time, leveraging off of other people's time, and making the time to work on the business plan consistently.
And when we talk to business clients and they feel uncomfortable, it's great to ask them to just stop and go, acknowledge that and go, okay, why do you think, or what is it that's making you uncomfortable about that? Because often, so it might be like, all right, we need to, increase our prices. It's like, we can't do that. Well, how come? And it might be, I don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know how to go about doing that. Or it might be, I'm actually really worried that a heap of them are going to leave us.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, then what's the problem with people leaving you? Is it A, that you don't want them to leave you and you feel hurt or that you've let them down? Or is it B, that you don't back, that you can then add in more clients that are more your ideal client to then prop that buffer back up? So that's where the fun really starts to happen, where we get to challenge people and sort of go, well, what's your uncomfort telling you about your situation?
Yeah, totally. And the point that you just raised there is us sitting with a client as we don't have any emotional ties to the business. We've got an objective, independent viewpoint.
Yeah.
So it can really challenge the business owner on their line of thinking and go, well, using your example on price increases, well, why? Or why not? You've come up to us with a reason that is preventing you from increasing the prices, but really what you're saying just doesn't stack up. It's just outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. And how come? Yeah.
So really to get over that roadblock or make some progress, you just got to do it. And that comes back to getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Bingo. We had a business planning session this week, and I think in the short time that we've been doing this, for me, it was one of the most rewarding sessions we've had, because we spent the first 25 minutes talking about the business owner's health and how they'd let it deteriorate.
Yep.
And how...
And it was good that they were really honest about
exactly
where they were and where they've now at, and
yeah.
then what they need to do to get back to where they need to be.
Yeah. And they were so open about it. And I was sitting there thinking, mate, could you imagine like 5 years ago that we'd be sitting down trying to help someone get themselves in better health as an accountant, as such, let's use that term as an accountant. We're trying to sit there. The first thing that we're setting for them to do is to get their health and fitness back into order. And we're talking about it with a client.
Yeah, we're big fans of healthy body, healthy mind, healthy business.
Yeah.
And that client resonated with that and could quite easily recall what life was like when they were in that better place.
Yeah.
And could see what life had become by not taking care of themselves and then going, gee, that's actually a quick win. So the immediate action for them, and you got the feedback pretty much that night, was join the gym, and first gym session was the next day. I mean, that's wow.
That was awesome. Yeah. It's like, wow. Because that's a really meaningful, that's a life-changing decision.
Yep.
And if they stick to it, and that's the cool thing about what we do, is then people do make decisions and we're helping them impact other people's lives. It might be hiring someone, it might be hiring a personal trainer. Like all of that stuff has a flow-on effect. So yeah, that was pretty cool for us. And what are the key components that make up a good business plan, Mr. Smith?
I was waiting for this question to come up because I was thinking, I was about to ask you the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I beat you to it.
What are the core?
Well, let's go through
the core parts of a business plan. We normally start off with some of that Simon Sinek stuff.
Yep.
About finding your why. So in business, people, according to his philosophy at least, by why you do something, not what you do it. So there's an emotional attachment to the purchasing decision. So it's a really valuable exercise to sit down with a client and find out what that emotional driver is, what gets you out of bed and gets you jazzed up to go and do what it is that you do every day. And more often than not, that will tie into what potentially your point of difference will be. Yeah.
And that's a bloody fun conversation to have. It can be quite challenging sometimes, because some people have thought about it, some people don't really know. I mean, I guess it's probably fine to reference a couple of examples, but some of the driving things behind why people are in business are pretty bloody awesome. And then when they get vulnerable and tell us about those and wanting to share the love and joy of people having a milk and cookie is a lot different to just selling a biscuit.
Yep, absolutely. And then it just reminds me of our first why that we wrote down when we were in Fiji. And, we liked it, I think, because it was our first one that we came up with. But looking back on it, when we updated it in the Gold Coast at the end of year 2.
It's just missing something, eh?
Yeah, just looking back on it, it just didn't feel like it had that emotional attachment that we felt jazzed up when talking about it. So we sat there, and I think it was probably 2/3 of the way through a bottle of Ciroc.
That's vodka, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
Available at all duty-frees on the way to the Gold Coast.
Good stuff, and goes well with watermelon water if you're interested.
Yeah.
And we kind of redefined our why and zhuzhed it up a little bit and now it's providing life-changing advice to aspirational business owners.
And part of how that came about is that I think you got off the phone, you were giving someone advice. I was listening to the phone call and I was like, holy shit, that is going to, if they do that, that is going to change their life. And I think you got off the phone and we spoke about it. I said, mate, like that's going to change their life if they take that advice on. And then we're like, well, that's what we should be doing, providing, life-changing advice to these people. That's what they're paying us for.
And incidentally, we had a phone call from a client earlier this week who called me up out of the blue to say, Phil, thanks.
That's right. That was outstanding.
Yeah. So it's, we live into our why, and the client just out of the blue randomly called up to say thanks. Thanks for everything that we've done for them over the past however many years that we've been involved with their business, that they've taken a lot of learnings from it, and it's enabled them to do what they want to be able to do in their life.
Yeah.
And they're grateful. And for me, that was a really, really cool moment.
I know that bills have to be paid, but I think things like that, they fill you up with a different form of currency, right?
Yep.
And you think, shit, this is exactly why we do what we do.
Yep. And that is, I sat down and I took 5 or 10 minutes just to reflect on that moment.
Yeah.
Because I think, one, that's important, and two, in our industry, it's not something that I believe happens a lot.
Yep.
And it's something I think to be grateful for. One, that we've got clients on board that value what we do, and then two, that we really genuinely are living into our why. So first of all, your why.
We got deep there. We got
real deep.
We're in a rabbit hole.
It is important. So if you don't know what your why is, you need to work it out.
Yep.
The second part, and this is the real interesting one.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a pretty black and white personality, and I've found this real challenging.
Yeah.
But it's fundamental to any successful business is values.
Yep. Having strong core values.
You have to have strong core values. It all fits in with the culture of the business and
decision making.
Yep. Every successful business needs to understand their culture and their values.
Yep.
Because it helps set direction and strategy. It'll help hire the people that are going to get you along the way to what that big, lofty, big picture goal looks like. There's no point hiring, Ben down the road that, says all the right stuff, but his values don't align with the business's core values. Yeah. So you're better off to go and get Sam.
Does.
Yeah, that does. He might not have the experience and might not have such a glowing CV that Ben does, but
Sammy Boy's got the values.
Sammy Boy's got the values, and he would be worth investing in over the long run.
So we need to then share those values with Sam, Samantha, Ben, whoever that we might be taking on to help them understand, right, early on that this is how we roll.
Yeah, and I would think that, I might be shooting myself in the foot here because we don't have our values on our website, but if it's a big organisation that somebody's going to work for, that they've at least done their research as to what the values are.
Yep.
And when you're going through the recruitment process, that they would be proactive enough to potentially ask about them.
Well, I saw a business that we work with, a client of ours this week.
Here we go.
Send out a job description, and they had their values on the bottom of the job description.
Wow.
So there you go.
Holy.
Trying to weed them out from the start, So speaking of values, mate, what are our values? I'll put you on the spot here.
Oh,
and you can't forget.
No, I can't forget, because we have come up with a way when we're on the Gold Coast, and I think we're into bottle number 2 of the Ciroc at this stage, for a way to remember them. Our values are winning, execution, translating, and genuineness.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Love it.
And I spoke just the other day with you that there is potential for a fifth one in there, consistency.
Love that.
Because that is a massive part of what we do.
Wet GC.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
There it is. Yep. Wet GC.
We've been on the GC and it was wet. Far out. Okay, I like that.
It was actually a pretty hot, sunny time that we're over there. The bushfires were there.
Yeah, that's right. They were, weren't they? We could see this. Yeah. We were, and for us, so winning, it's about helping people win. If people are winning in our network and our clients, then in return we think that we will be winning.
And I think winning, not in the sense of coming first,
Nah.
but it's about success.
Progress.
So whatever that looks like to you, it might mean you've been a business owner for 5 years and never gone on a family holiday.
We've got to get that on the business plan.
And freeing up your time that enables you to take the wife and kids on a holiday.
Yeah.
That's winning.
And then execution, obviously just get shit done.
Oh, yeah.
Translator, our industry, horrendous with jargon.
Oh,
we still call each other out and try and remember not to say that or explain what that is. Some quick stats for you, and don't quote me on these, but I think 95% of people don't read their financial statements and 87% of people are financially illiterate.
I'm surprised the number's not 100% because they're boring as batshit.
Exactly. So we try and translate that information into things that a business owner can understand. And we do that around provisional tax and whatnot. So then we kind of get upset when clients don't understand things because we're like, we're trying to educate them and translate this shit into this jargon into something they can understand because we want to teach them and want them to learn.
And lived into the values today because I had a meeting with a client and we had a great little whiteboard session and he sat back and because we get on so well with him, all of our clients, he's turned around and said to me, he says, Phil, can you dumb it down for me?
Brilliant.
And I was like, mate, that is perfect. That means you are engaged. You are listening to what I'm saying, but you're not getting it, and you're brave enough to turn around and say, mate, I don't get it. Can you re-explain it again? So went through with him, changed the language that we were using to be able to go, mate, you get this now, and he got it.
That's outstanding. Yep. And sometimes what we do, for those listening, as a little tactical tip, we try and put it back into their language. So try and put an explanation back into a language of a business. So try and think, okay, what does this business owner do? What does this business do? How can I explain it in things that they'll understand? And that's been a great hack for us to be able to do that. And then our last value, G for genuineness. We may add on the C for consistency, but genuineness for us was about, we want to be able to be ourselves in business. And we noticed a lot in accounting.
Probably our most important value, isn't it?
Oh, we talked about it today, how we think it should just about be G for goodwill because there's so much goodwill attached to us being genuine. I went to an institute meeting today and I rolled up in my T-shirt, my chinos and my shoes because I was walking there and I was walking back and I didn't even think about it. And then someone started quizzing me like, oh, so are you an accountant, et cetera. And I realised holy shit, everyone's wearing a suit.
They're all wearing suits, brown
cool.
suits.
I love putting on a suit as well, to be honest.
Many Volvos in the car park?
I didn't go to the car park, but I imagine there would have been a couple. So, and then even on the way out, there was a tote bag. I don't need a tote bag. I don't need to carry that merch home. It's probably not, not stuff that I need. And so I didn't get it because I want to be genuine. So I just want to say, hey, sorry, I don't need one of those bags. But
nice.
I would have normally been like, I don't want to feel bad. It's insulting not taking one. But I'm like, no, I want to be authentic. Genuine. I'm like, no, thank you. That's all good. And being able to be on a level with our clients where they can feel our genuineness and authenticity has meant that we have filtered out the people that don't like us, that don't want to work with us. We've drawn in the people that do like us, that do want to work with us and get our vibe. And we have, I often say to people that you're doing well with your clients when all of a sudden your handshakes go from handshakes to hugs or kisses on the cheek and things like that, where they're inviting you into their home or they're inviting you to things that are important to them, and you're sitting there thinking like, wow, this is
it's gone from
different
being
level of relationship.
That commercial relationship where you send an invoice and you get paid to being something much, much deeper.
Yeah. Or there's a bit of banter or a bit of swearing or a bit of help me out with this, boys. I can't work this one out. Forward this on. What should I do here? And I want your guys' honest opinion on this and things like that. That's it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. The genuineness value is, as I said before, probably the single most important value.
Yeah,
that's on the thing, and ties in back to us providing value first.
So we know while we're in business.
Yep.
We know what our values are.
Yep.
And then there's a number of other sections, and we won't want to drag this out for too long, but some of those. So then we're looking at 1-year goals, 5-year goals, so big picture thinking.
That big picture, and then make it a bit more of a short-term focus to go, well, what over the next 12 months are we going to work on specifically to help us get towards this bigger picture? And as part of doing that, it's important for the business owner to understand their niche.
Yep.
They're part of the industry that they're going to hone in and own. So ultimately that's working out about who they want to work with.
Yep, nice.
What does their perfect customer look like? So if they could go out and have an absolute ideal sale, and then they could repeat that infinite times, what would that customer look like?
Yeah.
And once you've got that level of detail, that then makes the advertising and marketing strategy a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because you can then funnel your advertising and marketing spend to a real tight audience. And then at the same time, once you understand your customer, when you're reflecting back on your why, it's part of it is that competitive advantage, or as some people call it, the unfair advantage. So everyone's got it in business. You need to leverage off of it. And there's a bit of an emotional attachment to it for you. People that are looking for businesses to work with love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Use it in your advertising and marketing.
Outstanding. There it is. And then KPIs, so key performance indicators. We don't always
You've got to
call
measure
them that.
success, eh?
Yep. How do you measure success? One of our, I reckon, our coolest examples was like a real big, broad client, bugger all this value shit, blah, blah, blah. But it's very like, it's just quality. We've got it, like, it's all got to be quality work. All the work we do is quality. I'm like, good. That's a great value. And then when we got to the KPIs, it was like rework. We don't do rework. That's why we get all of our jobs, because we do it right, and we do it right the first time. It's quality work, and that's what people expect from us. So if we're going to measure rework because there shouldn't be any, I'm like, whoa, someone just got real invested in the business planning process. Yeah, that was cool. When it all tied together all of a sudden for them.
Yep.
Yeah. And so those things, might be revenue, it might be margin, it might be new clients, it might be client growth. But things that you can actually measure to figure out, are these measures mapping back or mapping towards the goals that you're trying to achieve.
KPIs are absolutely important to, what gets measured gets done.
Yep.
So you need to measure how you're going against the plan, whether you're on the right path or on the wrong path. And if the KPIs are showing that you're not on the right path, then you're in a position to be able to take corrective action.
Yeah.
Following on from that, we do a little bit of it's an old term, but the old SWOT analysis. It's important to understand the environment that you're working in. And we did an interesting one with a client the other week.
Strengths,
and they really,
weaknesses, opportunities and threats.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
For the listeners out there.
Trying to teach and learn here. Yep.
We did an interesting one with a client a week or so ago, and we really honed in on their weaknesses within the organisation and opportunities, I think it was, that we honed in on. And the weaknesses part was really interesting, and one of the ones that actually popped up was two of the ones that popped up was the reliance on a number of key staff.
Yeah.
So if they decided as employees to go, no, I've got a better offer somewhere else, what's that going to do to the business?
Yeah, that's outstanding.
And then secondly, for the business to be able to get to where it wants to be in 5 years' time, the directors need to be doing something different today.
Yeah.
And we see this a lot with so many clients. They need to be able to make time on a consistent basis to work on the business, not in the business. And in this particular company, the two directors were very operationally involved.
Yeah.
In terms of that made up probably 95% of their day.
So then figuring out ways to address it.
And so a key part of working through that SWOT stuff was understanding how they can then delegate and what tasks that they're doing that they can push down amongst the team to free up time so that they could then execute the strategy.
Love it. So we're looking at those vulnerabilities and roadblocks and things that are getting in the way and throttling the business going forward.
Yep, that's the one. And time again, I think we were talking about this today or even yesterday, it always comes back to time.
Yeah.
Business owners and time.
Putting time back in your day.
Yep. You're good at what you do. More often than not, a business owner is a technician and they've thought, well, I'll go out and give this a crack on my own and remain at an operational level. But then to move from being at an operational level to being a business owner and thinking about strategy and doing something different. It's coming back to getting outside of that comfort zone.
So that's when you need to pull people in that do know what they're doing and that can pull you, take you through a process and challenge you along the way so that you can get more out of it. And don't be afraid to build a team in that space, because that is what we do with clients and it's what we love doing.
Yep.
And the things that we see them come up with and commit to, shit, it's good.
Oh, yeah. And as you say, that's the important part. Have somebody that you trust riding with you along the way.
Yeah.
To challenge the way you're thinking and to provide some independent, objective input.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, if you're going to do the process yourself, you'll probably only get 40% of the way there because you're living within your comfort zone and not setting some real stretch goals.
And remember that you are the person that can alter your success. So you still have to put the work in.
Yep.
The trainer, the coach, whatever you want to call them, the advisor, they will help you set the right plan, mapping towards what you're trying to achieve, but you still need to put the work in. You don't go down to the gym, meet a personal trainer, say, hey, I want to put on 50 kilos of muscle, and then they tell you, well, do this regime, which isn't about putting on muscle, but it's still your responsibility to do that work. So
do the mahi, get the treats, as I've sometimes heard it called.
Oh, yeah. Right, so then we need a list of action items, which we've already spoken about. I hope that is helpful. We both hope that is helpful for you, because this process is so important.
It is.
Not many people actually plan in their business and try and build a plan of where they're trying to go. But if you are working towards something, you have a higher chance of succeeding.
Yep.
So, know what you're aiming for. Don't just get up and go to work each day or into your business and think, oh, shit, it'll come right one day. And I think Phil's got some words of wisdom for you. And I would just say, before he gives you those, that make sure you have a bit of fun with it as well and make it exciting. It should be fun. It's exciting to plan your future. It's not a boring
You've got to
task.
be invested in it. Otherwise, if it's just a bit of paper with some ideas down on it, then you've wasted your time and whoever else is involved in developing it with you. If it's not something you've ever done before and have thought about it but haven't done it, there's plenty of templates on the website.
Yeah, that's right.
Just get started, and they're all free.
Yeah, have a go yourself.
Google's fantastic. And New Zealand-based templates as well. And I even think on business.govt.nz, they might even have some templates, some good resources on there. And the other thing is, just to close off, banking. If you're wanting to get better support from your banks, they like to see what does the business look like today, what's it going to look like in 5 years' time, and what are you going to be doing to get there. They love those action plans.
One of New Zealand's most prominent banks has actually started asking their customers, what are your goals? And a lot of businesses can't answer that. They're sort of sitting there going, and they're, well, how do we know if we're going to give you the right amount of lending, the right facilities, the right transactional banking? So that's pretty cool.
And it gives them confidence that they're going to get paid back.
Bingo, because they're working towards a plan. So I think we're in for a ton of work when some of those other banks start to do the same, and they say, well, why don't you go and have a chat with these guys? And that's exciting for us. So it's good to know that. Right, that is business planning covered from top to toe. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Tune in for our next episode of business planning later in the year. We're taking Phil to the Philippines. We like to try and theme our business planning, and it's going to be a hell of a week away. And we'll go live every night. We do that when we go away. We answer people's questions, and we have Dr. Phil on the couch. It'll be Dr. Phil in the Philippines, and we're looking forward to that. And hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. And of course, as always, any questions, comments, or things that you're striking with, then get in touch, because we are here to help.
Get in touch. LNP@nextAdvisory.nz.